utmost urgency. Caroline B., KTN News.
All right, and it's time for us now to discuss things that have been happening this week. And of course, we'll start with that state of the judiciary. I'll start with you, Mark. And there has been, let's just call it barbs between the executive and the judiciary. But right now, we just want to concentrate on the judiciary and maybe your feeling on their pulse. Do you feel we have a healthy judiciary in the country?
Well, do I feel or no? Okay, I know we don't have a healthy judiciary. And the reason I know this is because my uncle has been seeking a court date to determine how much the government owes him for 2 years. So that's not fair. I know there is something wrong with the judiciary because NYS2 is yet to be resolved a year plus down the line. I know there's a problem with the judiciary because the Akasha brothers apparently used to circumvent justice by using certain judges in Kenya who I do not think have been arrested. I don't think their motorcade has been taken from them, and I don't think their children are feeling the lack of school fees that our children feel when justice is subverted in this country. So no, the judiciary has a long way to go, and I know judges want us to venerate the judiciary and say, oh, it's due process and things like that. No, there's a lot of things that need to happen. A friend of mine was recently arrested for a traffic offense, and he didn't bribe, he went to court. Then he gave his, you know, when they arrest you, what's that bond that he gave, and then it took 3 months to get it back, even after he was declared innocent. There is something wrong with our judiciary. Let's just be very clear. Fixing it, maybe, I don't know, I've not yet seen the fruit, but in terms of how long it takes justice, to the wheels of justice to turn, in terms of the conviction rate, it's crazy, because for me, the day someone can be guilty both in the UK and Kenya, and be guilty both in the US and Kenya, that's the day justice will be working. Like but this idea of a CS is walking around here free, then this same Italian company is indicted in Italy, and then they are guilty, but Akina, the guys for Kenya Power, Akina, what is his name? Gishuru and the rest, who have been indicted in the UK, are still meandering here around, driving luxury cars. Surely, how is justice working?
I think to me, our judicial system is a bit progressive. I must say that it's not that all dull, as Mark would actually say. Because we are coming from a situation, we have a history as a country where those issues he was talking about used to be so serious. But nowadays, at least, things are happening with some sort of, reasonable speed, where we can say that at the end of the day, we shall be there. We might not be there just like a democracy. It grows with time. But with time, I must say that we shall be there, where we can say that, yes, we have full confidence in our judiciary. Perhaps right now, we have some teething issues because they are still in a progressive mode.
When you say teething issues, what is your measure? What are you measuring with? Because teething would mean that something new has started.
No, of course, when you look at the pace of cases in terms of clearing backlogs, there's something happening. Unlike before, when you could hear somebody has a case that has stayed in the judicial, corridors for 30 years. But at least we can see things moving, where backlogs are being cleared. Wait a minute. You can see at least some cases being determined, without, looking at the political affiliation or being, really? Fearing the executive. Yes, of course, when you look at we are forgetting that we are just smarty from a Bangor elections in 2017, where we could hear, the judiciary standing and being independent in a way that you can see them giving verdicts which are favoring the opposition and also the government of the day. And those kind of, that kind of history should not make us blind that at least we can see some semblance of independence within the judicial system.
This guy is saying that because it used to take 30 years, now it takes 10 years because there are cases that are 10, 15 years old in court. We are doing better. You're simply trying to convince us that if your spouse used to beat you up with open fists, now he's put on gloves or she's put on gloves, now you're beaten up better.
I think that's what you're trying to say. Context, because what I'm trying to say...
you cannot say that they have teething problems when the judiciary is 60 years old. What are they teething?
Look here, you see the problem...
If today Joy Brenda Mudivo has teething issues at the age the ripe age of 18 because she's still 18. You want to tell me that then you'll sit here and say she's doing better?
Let me explain this.
Let
me explain this. We are talking in the realm of good governance.
Gentlemen, I want to bring in Joy to give us some sense
Allow me to clear
balance.
this before, because I've been misquoted here. Let me say this. We are talking in
right
the realm
right
of
here.
good governance. And one of the principles of good governance is rule of law.
Take very long.
Rule of law and due process. That's one of the key tenets of good governance. And when you look at where we are coming, you know, the problem with the Mark is comparing our democracy with the Americas and the Scandinavian.
And here's the problem, Brian. It is true we may have made improvements. However, why do we compare ourselves with the worst case scenario? Why not use the best case scenario to compare ourselves?
Because
Brenda.
it's a progressive issue.
Because Singapore, because Malaysia, they got independence when?
One of the things we must admit, and which is the point I think Brian is trying to make, we have seen our judiciary actually grow. When you see some of the judgments that come from, for example, the Constitutional Court, they're very progressive, they're very bold. You can see judges actually daring to stand up.
Sorry, Brenda, I have to interrupt you because apparently your microphone doesn't seem to have taken as good tea as you're taking. So they're going to have to try and sort that out. But Mark, I'll bring you just now.
Let's underscore this. Kenyans, this excuse that our democracy is nascent, it is nubile, it is still quite young, is a nonsense argument. North Korea got independence around the same time as Kenya. North Korea was poorer than Kenya. So I don't know why people keep accusing me of comparing it with the United States. My friend, when in North Koreans, they live in a different time as us. Let's be very clear. These excuses that we have, that we're making progress or we are going somewhere, my friend, there is no way you can say you're making progress when almost 60 years post-independence, you're still struggling with the problems that Banana Republic struggled with. You cannot say, listen, listen. I know Kenyans like to give each other a pat in the back, but trust me, Maraga and your ilk, plus the bar and the bench, I'm putting you in the same level. You cannot be the overseers and the lords of corruption in this country, and then you want us to load you because you've reduced your case files, because you've
Although, Mark, it would be unfair to call them lords of corruption because really they're just they're arbitrators. They're just there to deal with the evidence that is brought to court.
Let's be clear.
It's not all sitting in the court corridor.
Let's be clear. Let's be clear that there are cases, and we can demonstrate that judges in this country have been affiliated to corruption. We know for a fact that there are many, many people who go to court knowing that they will hand a briefcase backdoor. Ahmed Nasir, who is one of our senior lawyers in this country, is today challenging the Supreme Court in a decision where they decided that someone without a degree is validly elected. And he said there is corruption. So let's be very clear.
Okay.
That
now, is my microphone now?
Yes, your microphone has taken some tea. So you're welcome back.
I tell you, tea solves many problems.
It does.
Tea has problems.
No, what I was saying before, we have seen our judiciary progress. We have seen a growth in the mind processes of the judges, such that we have a lot bolder judges, a lot bolder decisions coming out of the courtrooms. We have seen also the growth of constitutionalism, where the judges have dared to go in places that were sacrosanct before. So on that score, we must give it to the judiciary that they have taken strides. Good. There are very many hard-working magistrates and judges. Cases are actually getting churned out a lot faster than they used to be done before. And that's something we must give credit for. They've set up different divisions of court, and so you find that, for example, employment and labor relations matters, land matters, everything that is being dealt, anti-corruption is being dealt with in a more specialized manner. That is a tick in their box. But on the other hand, the scourge of corruption has become worse. We have seen a radical surgery, we have seen a purge, we have seen the Sharad Rao team that came and went. But the thing that has never been removed from the judiciary is entrenched corruption. And that's the thing that is killing our judicial system. Because once upon a time, if you came to me and told me, this is my problem, this is the issue that I'm facing, I, as an advocate, would be able to sit down with you and tell you, you know what, in this particular matter, this is what is going to come out. We're going to file this and this and this, and this will be the outcome. I can't tell you that anymore. Our courts have become so unpredictable because of corruption. People are induced to bend the law in ways sometimes that defy logic. Or you go and a ruling comes out, you are told come back tomorrow for a judgment, but the judgment is delivered today in the afternoon.
How?
You did not know.
And
what has happened now is, like Mark says, you see people like Ahmed Nasir coming out in public against the highest court of the land and saying, by the way, these guys, I mean, you look at some of the judgments that come out of the Supreme Court, and it's hard not to believe what Ahmed Nasir, although for him, he would know better. Twitter is not where to prosecute it. Put up or shut up. And I like what Judge Maraga told him yesterday. Put up or shut up.
Or shut up. All right, you've had your say on the state of judiciary. I need tea. And as a result, let's move on to something else. Now, the question that we have asked today, and this is to do with what has been going on with the dam scandals, is what the Deputy President came out and said recently in terms of there no being money lost. And he said there's no money lost. And what is in question is not 21 billion, but it's only 7 billion, to quote him. And the issue is that even if that 7 billion is in question, it is insured. So Kenyans' money is still not lost. Mark Bichachi, I'll start with you on this one, on your thoughts on that. The question we had asked is, do you believe the Deputy President?
Wow. I wrote on my Facebook yesterday and I asked my fellow Kenyans to mention any project done by central government that is corruption-free. And it's a difficult thing because the only one I can think about is the Navy thing the President launched the other day. Because
the Coast Guard.
Yeah, the Coast Guard. Because he did it by himself in his office. Anything else, by his own admission, clearly has issues. So do I believe the Deputy President? No. Because the fact of the matter is, what he explained yesterday does not explain to me 20 million worth of towels. It does not explain to me tiling and other things that have been procured. It does not explain to me why we paid, how many billions was it for a ticket for a forest in the middle of nowhere. It does not explain that.
Although according to Senator Murkomen, I listened to him yesterday, and one of the things he was saying is that the people whose land was going to be used have not been compensated. And as a result, they cannot begin work on land that has not been settled.
And now
so there is a process.
And again, the President alluded to this, and he said that every government project is stopped by court processes and by acquisition. Now, if you go back to the Lands Commission case and you look at what they are facing as concerned SGR, where a piece of land, you buy it today at 1 million, you sell it tomorrow at 100 million. Surely what is going on? You see, the truth of the matter is this. What is happening in as far as this dam cases is concerned, and I'll tell Kenyans as a strategist, what they're doing is muddying the waters, bamboozling you with so much facts, so many figures, that you lose the truth. And why do they want you to lose the truth? Because the devil is in the detail, because there's a devil here. So do I believe the Deputy President? I will face this country and categorically say no. Why? Because consistently, whenever there's been a call and a newspaper in this country has said there is corruption, 99.9% of the time they've been right. You tell me one time they were not right. We came out with the health scandal. We said, no, it was not there. It was proved it was there. We came out with the NYS1. In fact, there was a whole issue, oh, we are against Waiguru. We don't like Waiguru. We proved it was there. Which corruption scandal has ever come to the fore that was not true in this country?
To me, if I were the DP, I think I would not have come out so early to say that no money has been lost. And if there's money that has been lost, it's only 70 billion. Only 70 billion. I think that, to me, was unfortunate because it would have waited for all the, kind of investigations to take place and the results to be tabled bare for the people to know whether indeed there was money lost or not. But at this early moment, perhaps it has left.
But maybe he has the privilege of information that we do not, and he has proof that no money has been lost.
Well, I think that's okay, but at least because of our nature in terms of our speculative nature of the Kenyan mindset, he would have waited.
Okay, but to ask you the same question, do you believe him?
Well, I don't want to answer this on live TV, but what I want...
Why not?
What I want to say...
Although that is already an answer.
That's not yet an answer. What I want to say is that the issues of this...
You're very courageous.
No comment.
No comment on that. No comment about that. So what I'm trying to say is that I think... he has the privilege of information, and he has the right to, of course, inform Kenyans about what are the happenings of the government of the day, because he is the government. And by the way, the reason why he's actually coming out guns blazing is the reason that he's being seen as a government, or he's being perceived to be the government. President Kenyatta is being perceived to be on his exit. And when we start analyzing at the government of the day and the government of tomorrow, the name of one William Ruto will always feature prominently within that equation. And therefore, that's why, to me, could be the only reason. But when it comes to matters of investigation and waiting for the due process to take course, I think it was too early for him to.
All right, Joy, your thoughts on the DP's comments and whether it was premature for him to make a statement like that?
Let me start with the, do I believe him? I think I believe him and I disbelieve him at the same time. Let me start with why I think he makes some sense, is the point that Mark said. This week we've been hit with so many headlines, with so many big figures that actually part of my rational mind thinks maybe there is a narrative being created. Maybe there is somebody who's making this whirlwind of accusations that Kenyans get to a place, either we become jaded or we actually do the revolt. Part of me thinks that actually the numbers are so many that they're just meant to confuse us into madness.
By them.
Yes. So I think there's that particular aspect. So I would like to see a little bit more meat rather than just a headline, because I hear that the media houses talking in terms of papers that we have seen, And these papers seem to have come from the DCI. So if the DCI are really sure that they have all these things and they're very watertight, okay, let us see prosecutions. Then I'll start lending a bit more credence. But then on the other hand, I disbelieve him because 7 billion shillings is not chicken feed. I don't care if it's just 7 billion. That's not chicken feed. And if that's what's lost, that's still a tragedy. And if you don't think it's a tragedy, then there's actually a problem. Because in this day and age, we cannot be at a situation where somebody thinks that hii pesa ni kidogo sana, we can afford to lose it. We can't afford to lose even 100 million. Yes. Even kidogo, niche, it's too much.
All right, and I guess that's left there to the public. Would like to hear what your thoughts are. Let me just read some of the tweets that are coming through because they're coming fast and furious. In response to that question, do you believe what the Deputy President said, that no money has been lost? Although we seem to have lost something in that, because one of the things he mentioned is that even if there's a paper trail, and even if money has been lost, it is insured. And my problem with that would be the fact that it's insured doesn't make it right, and doesn't make it make it. Yeah,
I think we're talking about Kenyan money here, and whether it's insured or not, I think there's no leeway, there's no any avenue for Kenyans to lose even a single cent right now. Look at the debts that the country is grappling with. We are talking about 5.3 trillion, Mike, and 2.7 is actually foreign debt. And when you talk about such amount of money, we cannot afford even to lose a single cent in any kind of scheme. And especially when it comes to matters of people's livelihoods. This is a dam that's meant to benefit the vulnerable people within that particular setup. And when you talk about losing such money in the process, I think to me it's unfortunate. It's a low moment for this country. And it is the high time that we need to exercise a serious punch against corruption. Because these mega projects, these called PPPs, are some of the avenues where, government officials and some of these who is who in the government take advantage of actually getting kickbacks and even siphoning large amounts of money, at the chagrin of the local Kenyan. But how do we go further forward from this? I think it's a high time now that we need to create, a policy framework where we can address the issues of these mega flagship projects. Because I will tell you that
you are the one who said we are overregulated already.
No, it doesn't matter. We can do away with some of those useless. We can do away with some of those useless laws. Let me clear this. Let me clear this. Just a second. Let me clear this.
I think we need to break down the project into smaller projects. We initiate these massive projects that end up being complete. Like, for example, let's take another one that's happened this week. Shelving the laptop idea. I mean, it was absolute ridiculousness.
What I'm saying, we have some of the useless laws. What I'm saying.
I mean, if we broke these things down to electricity in schools, or as in something small that we can work with, we're not talking massive figures.
Look here,
it may be easier to accomplish than we put this grand scheme that.
Let me clear this. Let me clear this. What I'm saying, we have some of the many laws that we have are useless laws. Others, in other avenues, we have areas which need, that regulation, but it's missing. Like I tell you, the issues of SPVs, special purpose vehicles, which is an element in the bargaining process within a PPP arrangement, where you do not understand who got what.
Partnership.
Yes, public-private partnership.
Just to be clear.
Just to be clear. You realize that.
All right, I'll need to pause you, Brian, because I want us to move on to something else as we review that. I think we've had our say on that. And just to read some of the comments that are coming through, Mark. I need you to sit up because this is addressed to you. And Mark talks out of ignorance. A regular court user recognizes immense challenges of the judiciary. Truth is majority if cases is decided. Ahmed Nasir backs without fact. It's wrong. Weak link in the prosecution is DPP, mainly a capacity one. And why would DPP import a prosecutor? All right, we have somebody who says he is suspected to be part of the deal. That is in regards to the question. There's somebody here who has used language I cannot repeat on air. The question at hand is on a spiritual issue where we need to believe or disbelieve. If our media was mature, we would actually expose that he is lying. Okay. It is a big lie. Money was lost. We still cannot see something of substance on the ground where the dams were to be constructed. Keep your comments coming. I'll be reading them as and when we can right here as we continue with the show. But I want us to look at something else. And this is something else that took place this week. For the fourth time, we have the 2/3 gender bill flopping miserably. And I know, given the way it has been angled, and maybe this is where we have the problem, is that it's been looked at as a women's issue. So ideally, I should start with Brenda, because you know it's looked at as though it's a women's issue, but I don't think it's a women's issue.
It's not
it is a gender issue. So I'll start with you, Brian, on very
What's
briefly.
the difference?
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, let's start with the silver lining, because with Brian, he seems to have something
Brian,
positive.
the silver lining guy.
So I don't know, tell me how positive this is, that for the fourth time, the 2/3 gender bill has flopped.
That's
Before I bring in the negative aspects of this conversation.
You can hear the scandals, the missiles coming from Brenda here. But it's okay, I take it positively. What I want to say is that, as usual, what I'm saying is that we have to wait for another 6 months for this bill again to be reintroduced into Parliament. And to me, it's unfortunate, first of all, that such kind of efforts, concerted efforts by our women folk and other members of Parliament is not bearing fruit.
Maybe just to get the meat of it, because we already kind of know what's happened and what's going to happen. But why do you think this is happening? This is the fourth time. This
is a message to the women folk that they need to fight for their own. They need to also, as they campaign that they have that equality and they are working on the same platform with men on equal footing. I think it's a wake-up call for them to grab it by themselves, to fight it for themselves. Because
how do they do that?
They do, because of course some of the women who are in areas of representation fought for themselves. They were not given on a silver platter. They fought for it. So this is just a wake-up call to the women folk that they have all what it takes to fight.
So in short, what you're saying, let me just see if I've understood you, Brian. Are you saying then that they should forget about having this pass through Parliament and look for a different avenue?
No, they need just to change the tact, the approach in terms of mobilization within the precincts of Parliament. Because when you look at the participation that happened yesterday, it was party 170 something.
Even if all the women came, it would not have done.
Even not,
Mike,
in fact, okay, go on.
A beneficiary of male privilege cannot tell women how to get into office. In a country where there are women who cannot vote because their husband carries their ID in their pockets. In a country where a woman cannot even be involved in her own dowry negotiations. In a country where we chastise a woman for having an affair, and then we have a parliament that allows men to put more than one wife on his own.
Mark, this is not only happening now.
Yes,
even in the days of Christ, where was the man when the woman was being
exactly.
beaten?
So we cannot then say as men that women should work harder. If you want justice and equality in any country, those ones who have privilege have to open the door by force for those who do not have privilege to enter in. Let me tell you, it will be a long time before we see women able even to stand in the numbers for elective office in this country, because we know they are most likely to be victimized, they're most likely to be visited violence upon, they're most likely to be told, where is your husband? That is the fate of women in this country. So let's be very clear. It is the role of those who are in the majority in many of the offices to make space for those who are in the minority.
Where were the other women yesterday?
Where
were the other women yesterday? They never came.
No,
Listen,
but
that's why I said it's
you
the
know
role.
something, when these men are refusing to pass the bill because they think women ought to work harder for their positions.
Yeah, what
you know
nonsense
what?
is that?
That's the message they were sending.
That's the message that has been sent. And we've had members of parliament who have said that before. Why do these women think that they're going to get special seats?
freebie.
And everything?
Freebies.
And I look at it, I'm like, you know what? That is absolutely fine. But open your eyes and see. Right now in the judiciary, we've gotten to a place where you've got almost more women than men who are applying for those jobs and are keeping those jobs. If you look at the women in corporate space, they are coming out more. More girls are going to school. More girls are graduating. Women are emerging and are becoming stronger. It's not unforeseen in my mind a situation where it will be the women in the majority and it will be the men crying that they wish they had these laws set up.
They had taken advantage.
It's one of those things where I've looked at it and I'm like, okay, fine. So the men seem completely unwilling to help us move forward with this. The boy child has been emasculated in this country to a level where they're not performing as well as they should in school. They're not working as hard as they should. Women are earning much more than men. In the next 10 short years, women will be the majority in parliament, and it will be men begging for the 1/3 rule to work for them. So when I look at this thing, people saying women want freebies, they want what? I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, even in your own family, just look at how it's going on. The girls are overtaking the boys, and at the rates at which we are going, you know, we had started saying, oh, emancipate the boy child as well. The women caucus has gone slow, and that's we are like, you know what? What's at Tupambane na hali yetu? If the men don't realize what is going on. Because
what kind of society are we going to end up with when we have now men against women, women against men? Really?
That's where we are now, and the misfortune, and that's why I'm saying, if they're not reading the signs of the times, there'll come a time when women, because was it yesterday, I saw on Twitter, somebody was in theater and the entire cast in the theater, from the surgeons to the nurses, the entire cast were women. And I looked at it and I said, you know what? If men are not smelling the coffee to see, we need to work together on some of these things. There'll come a time, Wangua Makeri, the legend, will be back in present day. And I'll tell you something. If you've worked under a woman boss who's vindictive and annoying, you will realize by the way, when that time comes,
let me say this. Because today, and this is what I'm saying, that if men don't wake up and smell the coffee, that we need to open the door for our women folk. I'll give you an example of a country called the United States of America. They subjected the black race and other minorities to a lot of pressure. Look at the statistics today. By 2050, blacks will be a majority and these minorities
and the Hispanics will be a majority.
Take over.
Exactly.
Right? Let me tell you what happens, as it was in Egypt, so it is now. When you are busy playing Pharaoh and telling the Jews, you know what, you need to work harder to get your space. Trust you me. One day, the tables will turn.
Let me say
that's
this,
what
Mike.
is going to happen in this country.
Let me say this, Mike. I think, with all due respect to the women folk, and personally, I'm a he for she campaigner, and I stand for the girl child every time, because I have girls also in my family. And I'm born by a woman, and I have a wife. What I want to say is that this idea...
Anyway, just carry on. I was going to say it sounds like Trump. Whenever he's accused of being racist, he brings up, you know, somebody who
I don't want to be seen to be, not supporting the girls today. But I want to, I'm not of this idea of making the woman folk look like like a weakling when it comes to contestations for political space. I want to challenge the woman of today to wake up and rise to the occasion and fight for that. Are you saying
she hasn't risen?
She hasn't shown that particular leadership. Because look here. We've got 3 women elected governors. Let me give you the example of yesterday. Let me give you the example of yesterday.
From zero.
This was a bill that was particularly aiming at improving the livelihoods of the woman folk in terms of the political space. Most of the women who mattered never came, even to support that bill. As Dwele was passing that motion, the women folk who matters on this bill were not there. So somehow we can say that women are their worst enemies. Their own worst enemies.
That line again.
Wait a minute. Wait, I don't want to be afraid on live TV, but the women needed to come and show that they indeed need to support this bill to the latter. Because in their absence, what message are they sending?
No, but you see, let me tell you something, Brian. Please never start a sentence again by saying you have daughters and you have...
Why not?
There's no chauvinist on earth who didn't have a mother. So let's just be clear. They all at least had mothers. So
but at least have daughters.
Let's continue from there. Society, for society to move on and for society to succeed, the weight of making changes is never upon those who are weak and downtrodden. The challenge is always to those who have position. The challenge, therefore, is to the men, and to the men who, by the way, are the same ones who victimize women. They're the same ones who refuse to give opportunities to women. How then do you say, you women who have already victimized, it is your fault, you did not come to elect? You look at the process today. You tell me, if between Kabogo and Waititu, if you put a woman in between there, with the wars that were going on in Kiambu,
she has no chance.
We'll see peace.
All right. If you think about it, if you look at it in terms of it's a law just making space for women leaders, then you lose the point.
Absolutely.
It is a law to make sure that if numbers, if the third rule is not adhered to, this is the formula to make up the difference.
Yes.
And like I said, there'll come a time when it will be the women who are more than the men. That formula will come in handy to get in more men into parliament.
Ladies and gentlemen, we need to wind up. I need your closing comments. We've got the devolution conference coming up very soon, and maybe just very briefly your expectation from it. I'll start with you, Joy.
I don't know why we keep doing those devolution conferences. They look like a sinkhole for a lot of money, and they become a talk shop. The last few ones, I mean, you look at it, the Ramzatas is really nice. The camaraderie is excellent. The chance for people to socialize and the scandals that come out of it are usually very entertaining. But other than that, I don't see
any progress,
what major equation it feels in the scheme of things. I think in Kenya we have this culture of over-celebrating things. We launch, I mean, why we launch things, it doesn't make any sense. And we spend a lot of money doing these things. Government time is spent. If you look at the diary of a CS, it's launch after, workshop after. We need to come to a place where we move on from the Ramzatas and all the decor and the food, and we just get to a place where, but on the flip side, the towns that do host the devolution conference have a lot of growth. So
Brian, very briefly, very briefly.
To me, devolution is the best idea that this country had, and to me, I think the devolution conference in Kirinyaga will be an opportunity to showcase the scorecard in terms of performance of the governors and their counties. And to me, I think it's a good opportunity for us to see what is happening, what are the gains, what are the challenges that we are facing, and what can we do, what are the lessons learned, and how do we improve on this. So
that we are singing today, Wakenya Musilale, Bado Mapamba.
All right, and I would not trust Mark Bichachi to sing, so I would rather the DJ does that. Mark Bichachi, Brian Mutie, and Brenda Joy Mudivo, thank you very much for joining us this morning on the week that was. And just